Greater Media Broadcast News.
Welcome to another edition of Greater Media Broadcast News. I'm Susie Shia, and here are some of the stories we're covering this week. Former President Jimmy Carter visits the shore. New Sandy grant money is available. A Guinness World Record expected to be broken this week. An art exhibit exploring the mind's eye. And a former Negro Leagues player shares his story. There are two important anniversaries this fall. The one-year anniversary of Superstorm Sandy, which left thousands of families and businesses in a bereft state, and the 30th anniversary of the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter Work Project, which builds and repairs homes throughout the world. Well, these two converged on Union Beach last week as former President Jimmy Carter stopped by with hundreds of Habitat for Humanity volunteers. They came to help residents rebuild after the storm that kept thousands of families on food stamps and many residents out of their homes, and even changed the way local towns look at the future. The Carters joined these volunteers on the Jersey Shore to fix 14 Sandy-damaged homes and to begin rebuilding 2 others. Here's Keith Hugh Miller with more details about the project.
Nearly 650 Habitat volunteers spent 3 days in Union Beach, working to fix homes that had been devastated by intense winds and a massive tidal surge during the October 29th storm. The Carters arrived on Saturday morning, dressed in work clothes, wielding hammers, nailing in planks, and helping to raise walls for Elmer Lamberson's new home on Prospect Avenue. Lamberson, a military veteran currently living in temporary housing at Fort Monmouth, expects his new home to be completed by January. When finished, it will stand 14 feet above the ground to protect against future flooding. Lamberson, speaking with local media, joked that it could give him a nosebleed. Following the build, President Carter spoke to the gathered media about the need for affordable housing, both in disaster areas and in other needy communities throughout the country. While acknowledging that government bureaucracy can sometimes delay the flow of necessary aid into disaster areas like the Jersey coast, the former president said volunteer services like the kind provided by Habitat for Humanity have made a significant difference in the lives of those uprooted by the storm and in other events throughout the world. The Union Beach event kicked off an effort by the Habitat for Humanity of Monmouth County to repair 100 Sandy-damaged properties in various impacted towns throughout the next 12 months. The organization's coverage area extends from the Raritan Bay Shore down to Long Branch. Those interested in volunteering for a build and helping their neighbors in need can visit habitatmonmouth.org.
And here's Mark Rosman with more headlines from this week's papers.
The News Transcript has a feature article this week about Steve Smith. He's a native of Freehold who now makes his home in New Orleans. About a year ago, Steve and his partner appeared on the Spike television show Bar Rescue. John Taffer came to their bar in New Orleans and helped them out of some pretty tough times. Now, Steve is going to be back on Bar Rescue for the second time in an episode that is scheduled to air on Spike TV on October 27th. Back in October 2012, when Superstorm Sandy struck our area, it destroyed a bar in Far Rockaway, Queens, New York. Now, that bar will be featured on the October 27th edition of Bar Rescue. John Taffer put out the call to Steve Smith to come up and lend some of his expertise with this family in Queens as they rebuild their bar. This is an interesting article about a person who grew up in our area and is now doing quite well in his new adopted home. Check it out this week in the News Transcript.
And here's Mike Pavlichko of Greater Media's WCTC with an update on the Rutgers football team. You can find more segments at WCTCAM.com. After that, we have Tim Morris with more on local sports.
Blown opportunities and second chances, yes, both have been the calling card of the Rutgers football team in recent years. Rutgers blew an opportunity recently, a golden opportunity, when they played at Louisville to get the inside track on the first ever American Athletic Conference title and a BCS bowl berth, something that Rutgers has never had. Now, they shared in the Big East title last year, but, in recent years, Rutgers has had a few opportunities like this, blown it, and had a second chance. Go all the way back to 2006. Remember pandemonium in Piscataway? Rutgers beating Louisville. They came back the next week and laid an egg at Cincinnati. But still, at the end of the year, they had a chance against West Virginia. Of course, they didn't do it then either. 2011, a couple of years ago, a couple of October losses. Rutgers still had a chance at the end of the year. All they had to do was win at UConn. They got blown out 40-20. Last season, they lost in their 11th game to Pittsburgh. One more game. They still had a chance. All they had to do was beat Louisville, and they had a lead at halftime. But then Teddy Bridgewater came off the bench with not one, but two injuries. Came back against Rutgers. That was the end of that. Will this be the year? Will they get a second chance? We'll see. Stay tuned. I'm Mike Pavlichko on 1450 WCTC and WCTCAM.com.
A Czech Republic exchange student, Michaela Hlavata, shook things up in the Shore Conference girls tennis this year. She turned Freehold High School into a powerhouse. The Colonials won the Monmouth County Tournament Championship for the first time, with Hlavata winning the first singles crown. Freehold advanced to the Shore Conference Tournament for the first time in school history and is on the verge of claiming the B North Division Championship. Hlavata has enjoyed one of the greatest seasons ever by a Freehold District tennis player. She did not drop a single set during the regular season in leading Freehold to its newfound heights. In the state singles tournament, the junior advanced to the quarterfinals, where she lost her first and only match of the season in 3 sets. The Colonial used her athleticism and a combination of power and consistency to overwhelm opponents. A good first serve didn't hurt either. This is a familiar sight, Hlavata receiving congratulations from a beaten foe. Tim Morris for Greater Media Newspapers.
Haunted houses are popular during Halloween season, but what about the places that are haunted year-round? Here's Jessica D'Amico with the spooky details.
As autumn makes its annual journey toward Halloween, thrill seekers take their own sojourns to creepy venues designed to scare up the spirit of the holiday. But a handful of local haunts serve as year-round homes to what seem to be otherworldly presences, with spirits from bygone eras making themselves known to inhabitants and visitors alike. Take the whispers and footsteps reported at Woodbridge's Barron Arts Center, or the stories of ghost sightings at the East Brunswick Elks Lodge. In Port Monmouth, the Seabrook Wilson House, once the Spy House Museum, continues to be known for its ghostly hangers-on, while the Dublin House Tavern in Red Bank claims to have a mischievous resident spirit who once lived in the house. The New Jersey Ghost Organization has investigated many of these area haunts in an effort to sniff out the supernatural. For more on their findings and the alleged paranormal occurrences in Monmouth and Middlesex counties, as well as events exploring the supernatural, see this week's editions of Greater Media Newspapers.
A new exhibit at Middlesex County College is shining a light on how visually impaired artists create masterpieces. Here's Amy Rosen.
The Mind's Eye, an exhibit currently on display at Middlesex County College in Edison, is unique in many ways. The artists belong to a group called Seeing with Photography Collective, and a large percentage of the artists are visually impaired or totally blind. With the help of sighted assistants, they have found a way to give us a glimpse of images they picture in their mind's eye.
Seeing with Photography Collective is a group led by Mark Anders, who is a photographer who is sighted. The majority of the photographers are visually impaired or blind. The process that they use is called light painting, in which the photograph is taken in a dark room. The camera is opened up, very, very slow speed, and the participants, the group of photographers, actually work together using flashlights to do what's called light painting. And they move flashlights, which are different colors, around the subject, around the objects, the things in the room, and you can see traces of that. In this example here, you see this the yellow light, and you see it in all of these. But I think what you'll notice about the photographs, which goes way beyond the technical aspects of the photos, is really how deeply felt these photos are. They read almost like paintings, and the compositions are really strong. They're very, very beautiful in my view.
The public is welcome to view the exhibit at Middlesex County College through November 4th.
A former pitcher who played on Jackie Robinson's team in the Negro Leagues shared a story with residents of East Brunswick. Here's Tom Castles.
Things were much simpler in the early days of baseball, when pitchers could throw a complete game on a day's rest and player contracts were relatively benign compared with the multi-million-dollar deals that typify the big leagues today. But they were also much more complicated. The national shame of racism and segregation was standard practice in those days and left black athletes marginalized in society and on the baseball diamond. 83-year-old Robert Scott, a former Negro League pitcher, is doing his part to make sure that the Negro League's unsung heroes are not obscured in American history. Scott had the opportunity to play with some of the biggest names in segregated baseball. He pitched for Jackie Robinson's 1950 All-Star team and whiffed on a Satchel Paige fastball. But in a reflection of the values of American society at that time, he, along with the rest of the players in the Negro Leagues, was not compensated nearly as well as white ball players in the big leagues at that time. But that didn't stop Robert Scott from having the time of his life playing the game that he loved. To hear the rest of Scott's story, which includes a veteran's opinion on the current state of the game, visit gmnews.com or pick up the East Brunswick Sentinel.
For one South Brunswick Karate Center, martial arts means more than just kicks and punches. It's also about helping others. Kathy Chang has a story on how the center teamed up with a member of the celebrity Osmond family to do just that.
At the top of their lungs, the students at the Family Karate Super Center counted as they kicked during the center's third annual Kickathon for the Olive Osmond Hearing Fund on October 12th. The Olive Osmond Hearing Fund's mission is to donate its resources in assisting the deaf and hard of hearing. The fund was established in late 2010 by Olive Osmond's grandson, Justin Osmond, who was the only second-generation descendant of the celebrity Osmond family to inherit hearing issues. He was born with a 90% hearing loss.
On behalf of the Olive Osmond Hearing Fund, we would love to offer this to Donna Lynn and the Family Karate family for all that you guys have done over these past 3 years. You guys have been amazing. We look forward to this every single year. And like you guys said, you guys are the biggest contributors to the foundation. So thank you.
This year, with the help of hearing aid manufacturer Phonak, a 14-year-old boy was fitted with a hearing aid on October 14th at Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital in New Brunswick. Another hearing aid was presented to Jody Casero, Vice Principal of the New Jersey School of the Deaf in Trenton.
For more in-depth coverage and additional stories, pick up your Greater Media newspaper today. This is Susie Shia. Thanks for tuning in.